Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is 9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 8th, 2023. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United
States of America,
and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much for joining us today. We have quite a room full. At this time is citizen input for items that are not on the agenda. And do we have anybody with any input on other items? Is there anyone online? Okay, thank you. Next is consent agenda, a little bit of business here before we get to an exciting moment. Oregon Youth Authority funding and set of minutes on our consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. So at this time, item number 3, recognition of Dick Tobiasen. So thank you so much. Very exciting. Yeah, see, there we go already. So this is in context of veteran services. I want to thank you very much. In fact, Commissioner Dare, if you want to kick it off. I got things to say too. Yeah.
Kick it off. We're not playing soccer this morning, but no, Dick Tobiasen has been such an inspiration to our community, to our state, and to our country. The roads that he has had named, honoring those that have served, it really warms my heart. We have a lot of people in the room that have worked with Dick over the years, and I kept telling the county, Dick is 89. We've got to do this. And anyway, and the wonderful news is, Mary Jane, you were able to join him this morning. And Colin, I'm glad that you and the rest of the family could be here, because your grandfather is really an incredibly special man. I believe, what did I read last night? That Arlington Cemetery is like almost 700 acres. And I know your brother is buried there, and I just feel like we really, this is the week, and this is a time to thank a veteran, and especially you, Dick, for all that you do for our community. All those 6:30 a.m. putting the flags up, your ceremonies are inspiring, and I'm so proud of the people that bring their children to participate. I think it's such a wonderful message. And I'm sure you have something to say today.
Oh, so please join us at the microphone. There we go. A few words. Yeah, there we go. Here we go.
Well, this relationship with the county, first of all, Mary Jane and I have been here 32 years, and for the first 15 or 18 years, I didn't know what to do. So all of a sudden, we started this relationship 19 years ago, and it was something that was probably one of the most honorable things we could ever think of, and that was honoring the late Bob Maxwell, World War II Medal of Honor recipient, with a bridge. We named the bridge over the Deschutes River, the South County, for him. And he insisted that it could not be the Robert D. Maxwell Bridge, it had to be the Robert D. Maxwell Bridge. So the reason I selected that bridge was because that's where he fished. He loved to fish, and he had a boat there. And ironically, it was beside the bridge that was named the Patch Bridge from World War II. And the irony is General Patch led the training of 100,000 troops here in Central Oregon. And when he left to lead the invasion of southern France. Well, who was the last person to sign a recommendation for the Medal of Honor for Bob? General Patch. So the Patch Bridge was there. Of course, it's gone now, unfortunately. And of course, the county bridge is now named for Bob. So that's how we started this relationship, and it was in the Meyer building. So it's 19 years ago, and what have we done since then? Well, we've done the Ben Parade of Flags. Bob and I started that. Then the Ben Heroes Memorial. Bob, Eric, our son, and myself, and John Fry, and Dan Durlaki from the fire department, and Clint Burley from police department. So Our foundation objective is to honor veterans and first responders. So every step of the way, you've been there. For instance, we did the World War II highway. At that time, we had a lot of World War II veterans left. We probably had 200 or 300 World War II veterans in Deschutes County. We only have a handful. I only know of 2. So Eric and I did the honor flight trips, and you donated to that. You donated to honoring World War II veterans, and they're all gone. So feel good about honoring the greatest generation to save the world from tyranny. The World War II Veterans Historic Highway, you paid for a couple signs. That's a long time ago. Those signs are at the point we might have to start replacing them. But and then we started the flag program, and Commissioner Adair's point well taken about the youth there. Like, is Rena Dean here? Well, Rena had been with us, and her children have been with us for 11 years. They started putting out flags when their kids were that tall, and now they're taller than I am. So we've passed the torch on honoring veterans to a generation, and they will help continue that on. We started, all the counties around here have signs at the county line says, "We honor veterans." Well, we thought we'd go a step further. We said, "We honor veterans and first responders."
Here we go, yeah.
We have our first responders, whether they're both law enforcement or fire people. So they're honored when they come into the county. There are 8 signs. So you supported that. As a matter of fact, Commissioner DeBone says, you're going to help us raise funds, aren't you? I said, I'm not going to ask veterans to pay to honor themselves. That's your job. That worked out fine. And then we did all the other highways. We did the Medal of Honor Highway across Oregon, and that's one of 10 highways we've done. And it goes right through the county, and it's right out here. It overlaps the World War II highway between up by the Forum, up by the Home Depot down to the corner here. So those are memorable things. As a matter of fact, you may not know that we've got the Medal of Honor Highway all the way across the United States. So I went back to Boston and dedicated the 94th sign last August. So we've got that done. So but then we got into this problem of solving homelessness for veterans. And I asked our board to consider that. Eric said, "Dad, put your hand down. I'm going to take care of that." And so Eric has been working with you and Nick and everybody for the last 4 years to get that done. And as you know, we built 15 tiny houses and a community center, and Central Oregon Veterans Outreach has managed that. We build it, they manage it. And 34 homeless veterans have been through that program. There are 15 in residence today. And in a few days, there are going to be 7 more because Eric has worked with you to expand it from 15 cottages or cabins to 22. So I don't know if that's the end of the homeless veterans thing. It could be the end for that location because I think we've saturated, but there are opportunities to do more for homeless people. So in this county, pat yourself on the back. Veterans will never be forgotten, and it's been an honor to work with you. Thank you very much.
For a photo, we have a plaque for you here.
Well, come on, can I have a?
Yeah, whoever else wants to get the
Let's start doing photos. Everybody, come on.
Let's get a picture photo. Whoever wants to come join us. Yeah, please. Come on, Eric.
I know he always loves big group photos, so yeah.
Right in the middle. Yeah, everybody in the middle.
Hanging down a bit. Just got a knee replacement.
Oh my gosh, how's that going?
Well, we had a special down at Primark, you know, so that worked great. It's our code because we're not. Yeah, but. It's not as bad as.
Come on in. Right? Couple levels. Okay, start the clock. That's good. Jim, one more, here we go.
Yeah, you're next to Dennis.
I know. Okay.
You ready? 3, 2, 1. Got it. Thank you.
Outside.
Yeah, we what time's the singer? Yeah. It's good to see you, sir. You know,
You guys, don't forget to take a training. Program now, if you want to hear, like the county management program, that's, it's right on their agenda right now. Yes, it's right on the agenda now. Show me online. Yeah.
You know, I too, I didn't get there. So thank you very
Before
much. for
Dick
that.
escapes, yeah.
Thank
We
you
do have,
very much.
we do have a couple of more comments before Dick escapes.
So Dick, we got a few more comments for you. As I say, we dove into the plaque and that, but yeah, we want to take some turns here also.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, Dick has spent decades recognizing and honoring the service of veterans in our community. And when he wanted to move this project called Veterans Village along, to provide a pathway out of homelessness and to recognize and honor the service of veterans who have gotten to a hard place in their life. It was, I was so excited to hear about it. I'm so glad that the county has been able to be a partner in that project. And now we see that the Veterans is providing hope, support, opportunity to people who are in a hard spot. And in so doing, the Veterans Village has not just moved 34 folks on to better places, more permanent housing, stable employment, and other things. It has provided a template or an example for our community for how we can move folks who are not veterans, who are homeless, out of homelessness, and provide a pathway and stepping stones for those people. So thank you so much for that vision that is paying such great dividends for our community.
Well, and Dick, yeah, there you go. Dick, I want to say thank you too. You know, it's just been an honor and a privilege. As I say, it's generational. You know, I got to hang out with Bob Shotwell, World War II veteran also, and he's a friend of mine. You know, he's passed away now too. And then getting to know, you know, Bob Maxwell and yourself and all the veterans, you know, the Band of Brothers, all the efforts that we do here in Central Oregon, you know, just the camaraderie and the support. And that's what it's all about, keeping it positive, supporting each other. So I want to thank you very much. Congratulations, Veterans Village, adding the next cabins right now. I know there's like that strong attitude. We need to go do this. Okay, well, where's the money and how are we going to do it? But we just keep doing it. So very exciting. Thanks for your leadership. And Veterans Day is coming up. We got a parade scheduled this weekend, right? So congratulations and thank you everybody for joining us. On our agenda, we have the next item is presentation from Veterans Services Department. So I don't. Now I'm wondering, is that a separate presentation or is this?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we do have another kind of topic to follow this, but moving on the agenda, we want to say thank you. And now we're going to hear from our Veterans Services Department also.
And please take a cookie or a cupcake when you leave. Thank you, Brenda.
Great. So as I say, this is our next agenda item, presentation from Veteran Services here at Deschutes County.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Eric Kropp, Deputy County Administrator. I wanted to introduce Sean Kirk. He's one of our Veterans Service Officers. Keith McNamara, our manager of the Veterans Service Office, was not able to come today. He had a scheduled appointment that he couldn't change. But Sean is one of our three or four.
We have 4 VSOs and 1 admin assistant.
Okay, so he's one of our 4 Veteran Service Officers. Sean's going to talk a little bit about the office and what services are provided. But at the beginning, I asked him to introduce himself and give a little history about where he worked before coming to Deschutes County, and also to touch on his military service.
Great.
With that, I'll
Thank
turn
you
it
so
over.
much for joining us.
I thank you for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak about what our office does within the county for the veterans. First of all, my name's Sean Kirk. I've been with the county for, well, right about 11 months now. I came from Crook County. I was a former director of Veteran Services for there. Prior to that, I'm a 26-year Army veteran, retired Sergeant Major, married next month for 25 years. I have 1 son in the Army, and my daughter's a senior in high school. Well, that's about it.
You,
for me.
yeah.
For the office, we serve roughly in Deschutes County. We have about 16,700 veterans in the county. And that doesn't mean we provide services to all veterans. Not everybody needs us, but we're here for everybody. The biggest thing that people don't understand is we are not the VA. We're county employees. We're representatives for the state. We go through a year-long training process to become nationally accredited, which allows us to do the work we do for the county and our local veterans. Within that umbrella, the largest amount of applications we see is for compensation, some sort of disability from an event or injury that occurred in service. Now, although everything we do not charge a fee or service. Everything is free. We do bring money into the county as it goes back to the veterans. And this last year, the office brought in just over $1 million. And that's through disability claims, for, like I said, for an injury or an event that occurred, but we also do pension. Pension is an incomes need-based program for veterans that are below the poverty level. And there's a lot that goes into that. Income they make, their total assets, look back periods. And those 2 main programs are solely focused for the veterans. But who else is with a veteran? Their family, they're veterans too. So in certain situations, we provide support and benefits to spouses and widows of veterans. And some of that can be pension, a program called DIC, Dependent Indemnity Compensation, after the veteran passes for certain reasons and conditions. Other things we help with, though we are totally separate, there are different avenues of the VA. We help people enroll in veterans health care. Sometimes they need help getting their appointments, medications, just the process in general, because it is a pretty big web. And most people, get frustrated with the wait times, and it's just hard to get to talk to a voice sometimes with the VA. So we help with that. We work with other community members for in attendance and housebound situations. There's a lot of organizations within the county that we intermingle with that are state and federal as well. Within the office, 4 of us are veterans with over a combined 52 years active military service. And then 1 individual that's not a veteran, and it just shows you don't have to be a veteran to help veterans. We're all here and everybody's important. In a nutshell, that's what we do. We're here to serve and we're here to help. So thank you.
Great, thank you. And that updated number, 16,700 is the number that we're working with right now. So thank you very much for that service and outreach to the community members. And it's a choice for Deschutes County to have such a robust veteran service office. So, for the veterans in Deschutes County, I'm honored to be able to help provide that service as a commissioner.
Sean, when you had Crook County numbers and Jefferson County, do you know what we get up to?
Crook County, they're around 2,300, 2,000. I'm not sure Jefferson.
Same thing.
They're pretty close. The way services are provided within the counties, the programs are pretty much the same, but how large the staff is and the number of hours that the counties pay for are different. We know right now, Cook County is not really open. They now have an admin person back in there that have vacancies out to hire 2 more VSOs. But in the meantime, we're servicing the veterans from Cook County. And because they may not be in our county, but they're still a veteran and they need continued support. So we're taking up that slack in the meantime, filling that gap.
That's great to hear, because you would not want a veteran to have to wait if they need, special help that we're able to provide. So thank you for sharing that.
I would just thank you for the work that you and the team do every day to connect veterans with the benefits that they deserve for their service.
Well, good. Thank you very much. That's our update, and it fit real well with this recognition ceremony. So thank you so much for the service you're doing.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yes.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you for your service.
So moving to our next agenda item, presentation from Envision Bend. Yeah, please take a cupcake on your way out.
And if some of that stuff is non-perishable, you could save it for the grand opening of the 7 new units at the Veterans Village.
Matt, I'm sure it's nothing personal. There was just a real focus there on one event.
But Dick draws it down.
Yep. I think they're prepared. I saw the prepare. Yeah.
That's right. I like to pass these out to the commissioners.
Great. Thank you.
Great time to do it.
Thank you. Great. Matt, good to see you.
Yeah.
So this is item number 5, presentation from Envision Bend on its Vision Action Plan.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks. And be as lively as I can.
Well, somebody will cheer for you at the end.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Appreciate the applause whenever you.
Yeah.
But good morning and thank you for having us. Thank you to Nick and Brenda for the help to get this time set up, and thank you to the commissioners for the support and the opportunity to share this update. It's a privilege for me to represent this effort and the board, many of which are in the room or streaming online, and also a privilege to really represent the community voice through this project. So I'm just the messenger, and I'll do my best to answer questions through this process.
Matt, you can advance the slides using the keyboard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Scroll down here. So really the purpose of this presentation to you all this morning is to, one, and first and foremost, say thank you for the financial support to this project. 2, to give you a quick overview of the Vision Action Plan that you see in front of you and the 44 high gloss pages and all the big bright photos, and kind of walk you through the information. And then last is just a note to continue our partnership through goal alignment and working to find ways that we can continue to work together in the future. So I wanted to share a photo here on the screen of one of the Vision Action teams, the Building an Economy for Everyone work group that really worked to compile the thousands and thousands of comments we got from the community into the 28 strategies that you have in front of you. And we tasked them with a lot, and they stepped up to the challenge. So we're grateful for their help as well. But first and foremost, our gratitude to the Deschutes County and the Board of County Commissioners for your support at the community hero level, along with the City of Bend, really stepping up to help make this project happen. It helped us bring on a consultant to compile the data and help facilitate a lot of the working sessions and pull this together. We're a lean, mean organization of a working board and myself as a part-time executive director. So really, this is a community effort and something that I think as you look at the gratitude slide, the number of partners that came forward for this effort really shows the fabric of our community and many organizations in the community that have historically engaged in visionary planning work and really believe in this effort. So we're thankful to you and thankful to all these partners. About the Vision Project, I know most of you are familiar with this, so I won't spend too long on this slide, but just to touch point, why did we do this effort? You know, why was this needed? And the last effort that had been done in Bend in 2005, 2006 called Bend 2030 was fairly Bend centric. And also that was 2005, 2006. A lot has changed in the community since then. So an updated effort to help shape our community's future and also take a regional approach. That was something from the get-go that was very important to focus on not just Bend, but greater Bend. And so our outreach and our strategies reflect that. Wanted to do research to investigate our current conditions, trends that might impact our future looking forward. How can we? And we also, this effort was important to engage as many residents as possible. So something that was important throughout this effort was to reach folks that aren't usually at the planning meetings, aren't usually going to the open houses, but really meet people where they are at. So a number of board members in the room might have scars from dragging around our tent and cinder blocks to different events last summer, meeting people out in the community to help fill out the surveys, worked with Shepherd's House and Family Kitchen, and also held a number of focus groups, which I'll touch on in a second. And last, we wanted to create a document where the community conversations, the values, the vision, the strategies to move us forward were in one place. I like to think of this as, a lot of the backyard barbecue conversations where people say, what's up with traffic? And people throw darts at solutions, it would be great if we had, the city of Bend here to talk to this, or ODOT. Well, we work to pull all those ideas and those people into the same room to try to come together with some creative solutions for our region, from our region. So really the foundation of this plan is the community input. It's where we got all of these ideas. We had 73 community leader and connector interviews, not just with leaders of organizations, but mover shakers in their own right, informal networks and people that are working in their community to make a difference. We had 17 listen and envision focus groups with 142 participants. These were great because they focused on groups like students or renters or veterans, to really pull those voices forward and have some more long form discussion, longer than just a survey, to hear from them and what they want and need in the community. We had over 2,000 survey respondents, and I'll note that roughly 20% of those came from outside of the Bend UGB. So that was a really important piece to this, to make sure that we were hearing from folks outside of Bend. 933 folks responded to our Big Ideas poll, kind of letting us and helping us prioritize which harebrained idea is better than the next and what makes practical sense, and how can we pull this into the effort. And over 200 folks joined us at our summit last year at COCC to talk through this effort. I'm a homeowner in Redmond, and I got a large Redmond contingency to come to that summit and voice some Redmond priorities. So that was great to bring that voice in to the project. This effort is rooted in community values. So the things that we value in our community, and none of these will come as a shock to you, but they're sort of our grounding points. Our recreational opportunities, natural environment, clean air and water, our economic opportunities, shopping amenities, arts and culture, our sense of community, and really our welcoming qualities here, family-friendly atmosphere, and overall lack of serious crime that you see in larger metropolitan areas, and our growing racial, ethnic, cultural diversity, as well as our education and healthcare centers in the region. So these values sort of anchored all the strategies and were a priority as we crafted these. So what's in the document? There's a lot of content. You'll notice we use colors to help make it easy to find the sections you want to find. So it's color coded into 4 focus areas: focused on growth, economy, inclusive community, and also safe, healthy environment. So really to wrap our arms around the thousands of comments that we heard, these focus areas helped, and we pulled in action teams with community members and stakeholders for each of these areas to help us come up with the strategies. So 28 strategies in total. You'll see that there's 7 strategies for each of the focus areas, one of which we've labeled as a game changer project. So one that we feel like is a big, audacious goal, will likely take more than 5 years, which is the scope of this project to accomplish, but one that the community voices as needed and something that we think could move the needle in our community. And then we also have quick wins, so things that we think in the next year or two we could move the needle on to help make progress. So really, a lot of the magic in this process happened when we got those vision action teams together and got those folks talking about what could be possible to create these strategies. The other piece of magic in this is the role of plan partners. So throughout this document, you'll see recommended partners. There's over 128 of them throughout the plan, lead and supporting partners. And this is really the community saying, we see these organizations in a position to help either take the lead on this strategy or be a support and be at the table. And I'll talk about briefly where the county is listed on a number of those 12 of the 28 strategies. And a key piece before I move on is just that the community is asking for things where there's gaps or gray space. We might not have the capacity or the ability right now, but it's something that I think is an opportunity to place a marker on the horizon and something to point our ships towards. The presentation earlier today, this morning, reminded me of my grandfather, who's a navigator in the U.S. Navy back in the 50s. And he taught me growing up some of the charts and stargazing with him, the importance of finding a North Star and sort of coordinating points to make sure as we move through a political and changing cultural landscape, what's a way that we can all sort of focus and work together. So I think of this document as a sort of community North Star for us and a way to help focus resources and conversation. The role of Envision Bend, we're looking to be the stewards of this entire community effort, which means that we'll champion and cheerlead efforts as they cross the finish line. Things that happen, we're gonna celebrate that. We're also gonna perform regular check-ins with the community to make sure that as things change, this still resonates. This is a living document. It's printed, so it feels final, but I think it's important to note this is square one of many. We want to continue to update and hone this project in. And in that, bringing stakeholders together around the game changers and the quick wins to have those critical discussions and talk through what might be possible. And annually benchmark, track our progress, and evolve the plan over time. So again, living document, how can we evolve this effort? And last, working to help secure project funding where we can, whether that's through letters of support or helping to co-write grants, things like that to help build capacity. And my last slide here, Deschutes County is a key stakeholder. This was heard throughout the working group sessions listed on 12 of the 28 strategies in different capacities. So you'll see library services or health services, historical society listed throughout as either lead or supporting. There's 3 strategies where the community felt the county very well could be the lead on this and recommended that the county be listed there. And in that, we just ask you all, I know the TSP and the County 2040 are coming up in the near future, and these are big, big visionary documents for our region. And so just helping align and just the ask to you all to use this document as a source of information for that decision-making process. The Vision Action Plan helps bring greater recognition and awareness to what is being done today and what needs to be done in the future. And before I go to any questions, I think it's important to note that back in the 1970s, the Bend population was similar to Klamath Falls and Pendleton, and we didn't have a centralized sewer system. And these things took many, many steps and visionary thinking and planning to be where we are today. this is not a perfect plan. We have many issues in our community, but I think the point to emphasize here is just the value of putting that North Star on the horizon and something for us to head towards. So with that, I'd love to take a few questions with any time that I have left, and Nick and Brenna, just feel free to stop me if we go extend over time. But thank you again for your attention and support of this project.
Thank you so much.
Matt, could you highlight for us those 12 strategies that you think the county has an important role in, and particularly the 3 where the county has been identified as a potential lead partner?
Yeah, definitely. Thought you might ask that, and didn't know if you'd have time. So I do have a couple slides if we go past my my closing slides to show that information.
I'll just say, commissioners, when Matt and I were coordinating, it's a blur, whether it was yesterday or the day before at this point.
Yeah.
We just didn't know how much time we may have for this
Yeah.
agenda item. And since we're a few minutes ahead, thanks for being prepared and having some of those slides available. Thank you.
When I tried to, pad the agenda a little bit today so we could have these conversations. So that's
Great.
exactly what we were thinking.
I pulled in the page numbers for these if you want to dive any deeper while we look at these, but the 3 projects where the county is listed as a recommended lead partner. And again, this is the community group saying, we see the county, we see you as leaders in these areas, we see you playing a major role in an effort like this. So one being Blue Zones Project for Community Health. This is an international effort to increase longevity and overall comprehensive community health through diet, exercise, lifestyle, transportation options. And so this sort of blanket could help our region sort of look at things in a multifaceted way for community health. Countywide interconnected trail system, interconnectivity and alternative transportation was a huge theme from the community. So working to connect those trail systems, and again, for someone who commutes often back and forth to Redmond, seeing a lot of folks on the 97 north of town on bikes or walking, and just safety concerns and issues that came up with some of this, and just how can we further connect our cities. And something else to note with this is the Lapine to Lava Butte path that ODOT is working on. And it's not only recreation, I think it's a way to move our workforce to and from Sun River and throughout the county.
So yeah, that's a community conversation that, has got 2 sides to it going different ways these days. So it's interesting, if we have these paths through public lands, hopefully we can have a 2-sided conversation about, okay, what are we really talking about here? Because we see paths coming in. This is just for all of us to discuss, paths being proposed, and then, tents on the side of the road. We've got this interesting moment in time where there may be a vision for doing something, but is it going to be utilized like that? And is it going to be a safe corridor? Is it going to be managed? Is it going to be maintained? So just acknowledging that, 2 sides of those conversations.
Yeah. And I would just note that all of these strategies didn't come easily. I mean, there's a lot of consensus work in multiple sides. And so, I think that conversation is key. We have to continue to look at that from multiple vantage points.
And for this particular item, the piece that may be more contentious and more relevant to the city of Bend and to the community of Bend is the part that connects Deschutes River Woods to Lava Butte, which there are a lot of many of the 2-sided discussions that Commissioner DeBone is referring to are playing out in the transportation system plan, the county transportation system plan right now. So would encourage people who are interested in those discussions to engage, make sure they're engaged in that process. That'll actually be one of my other kind of, I want to let you finish going through these 3 and then 12 total. But one of my other questions is going to be, how is all of this great community input and engagement that you've collected through the Envision Bend project being fed into the comprehensive plan and the transportation system plan? Because those are processes that also attempted or have done, in my opinion, a pretty good job of including a lot of community engagement, but clearly that this Envision Bend effort has engaged a lot of people as well. And we want to make sure that that engagement, that input gets crosswalked.
Yeah, it's a really great point. I think throughout this process, we've engaged with county staff over the last 2 years, and a number of county staff were a part of the working groups to help, I think, tie these things together and help, these efforts inform one another. But I'll walk through this last piece because I think it'll be really interesting for folks. So one of the largest issues we heard from the community was around railroad safety and traffic congestion with the railroad and Reed Market and things that I'm sure you all are familiar with. But the working group sort of took that information and said, if we try to move the railroad to east of town, it'll become a future Bend, Central Oregon problem. How can we look to use what's already there more efficiently for the uses today? So the strategy is framed around moving the switching yards in the UGB outside of the UGB to open up space in the urban core area of Bend and help trains flow through there. And that opens up some other opportunities for a rail with trail or even a light rail in town down the road and provides opportunities. I will say that this is probably our most aspirational goal in the plan. I know loosely working around railroad issues in the past or anything with BNSF can be quite difficult. So it's a large community conversation, but just I think thinking about the land that we have and how do we use that most effectively for the uses of today, and the switching yard was one that came up as for our urban core area that could be used more efficiently.
Interesting.
Matt, one of the issues that I'm incredibly concerned about is the healthcare system that serves Central Oregon and actually Eastern Oregon from our regional health hospital. And on October 27th, a couple of Fridays ago, the hospital was turning away patients. And I feel like your group really needs to move that up at the top. Our population is going up, and if you want to know the truth, in July of 2019, St. Charles was full, and that was before COVID. You know how people do a lot of crazy things in the summer and they end up at the hospital with a broken leg or something. Well, the hospital was actually full in July of 2019. And with our growth since that period of time, we really need the hospital to look at the direction, the amount of beds they have. And of course, there's always that staffing issue, which is, pushing down from the top. But our community desperately needs more hospital capacity in the region because, people are coming up from, Klamath Falls are coming here. People are coming over from Burns to use this hospital. I mean, it is a regional hospital, and I feel like I would give that a little more recognition. I think it's critical for our community. We have a lot of retired people here and just, regular people when the hospital can't take any more patients. That's quite, it's scary if you're on the outside and you need to get in.
Thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Adair. Yeah, it's something that did come up, and we have a strategy for increasing, like you mentioned, the workforce, healthcare worker training. How can we use the resources we have? And I know COCC and OSUC are working on this. I just saw, OSU Cascades as a boost in their enrollment, and same with COCC. But what can we do on a larger scale to increase that capacity for not only Central Oregonians, but like you mentioned, Eastern and Southern Oregon as well, where this is a hub. So I appreciate that note. And I think it's something that as we work with partners like St. Charles through this project in the years to come, maybe that'll become a future game changer or a way in which we can help amplify, or maybe we just focus our efforts to further support that. But it's the population is aging here and over 65, and I think it's a key point. And so I appreciate you bringing it forward.
Well, it's definitely challenging with healthcare systems all over the country, and you see where hospitals in some regions are closing, and we definitely need greater capacity.
One of the things I see here is for any of these topics, the opportunities just to get the buzz going, right? You know, it's like, oh, let's think about this, and then just get the excitement on any specific topic started. So that's really a great opportunity to get a bunch of people because there's so many diverse, groups and thoughts and histories here. But getting the buzz going is kind of what I think about for a project, the whole thing, Envision Bend project. One of the things that jumps out is page 21, historic preservation and inventory. So we've got a recruitment out for our historic landmarks commission right now. So that's Deschutes County. We had a good community update on that a week or so ago, and the choice was to really get that HLC going at the Deschutes County level. So the recruitment, as I say, this is an action item. Send the list that there's a recruitment open for HLC at the county right now. So that's where we can, utilize, this partnership to, just get the word out. It's an interesting time. We've got press releases, we've got some media coverage. We tell the people we know about what's going on. How many times do you hear, I didn't know that was happening. I didn't hear anything about it. The communication channels are diverse right now, and not everybody's following the same communication channel. I've been watching this Facebook page forever. Oh, you didn't hear about this thing going on over here. It is a challenging time. So
Yeah, it was amazing. And thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner DeBone. It was amazing to be a part of the working groups as sort of a fly on the wall, but to watch people very much in the know and leadership roles in our community saying, oh, I didn't realize that was a current priority, or I didn't realize that was written into that plan. And so I think this effort really to bring awareness at that level, but also, I think Envision Bend has an opportunity to seed conversation and help with civic engagement and bring people into these conversations.
well, and we had a community civic engagement meeting last night in La Pine, in fact, but it was a room full of about 55 people, and we're practicing getting together post-COVID. We all kind of dove online, and now we're coming back out of it. Well, we have both now, but are we really talking to each other? Are we really in the same room? Are we talking to each other, eye to eye? And are we listening to each other? Oh, it's just challenging times. So just move the rail yard out of town. That's the goal here.
That's the idea. And I can share the 9 where it's supporting partner, if that.
Sure. Yeah, we got a few minutes. We've planned. Yeah.
Scrolling down. So again, in various capacities, you'll see I put in parentheses health services or library services. But and again, these are partners that we felt like would inevitably and importantly be at the table of these conversations. So I think, but in a supporting role. So improved, expanded, well-funded public transit, working to increase the community education around homelessness and humanize that issue and really bring people into the know about what's already going on and what needs to happen. Mental health well-being for students, expanded access to healthy food and working to combat the food insecurity, the rapid rise that we're seeing in our region this past year, especially. Solarizing Bend, adapting to our changing climate, which ties into a lot of emergency services and preparedness. Preserving Skyline Forest for our future as our large game changer project. This was actually one of the projects that was a Bend 2030 item. And about 80% of that plan happened between 2005 and now. But this is one of those items that's been a long goal for the community to protect and preserve this region. Outdoors for everyone, opening up access in schools and for different walks of life and abilities, and making sure that everyone can recreate that wants to, and getting people outdoors. And then, as you mentioned, Commissioner DeBone, historic preservation, inventory, and adaptive reuse as a way. We see that as a quick win, though none of these projects are quick, but a way for us to hold on to some of the cultural fabric and built environment history that's in our community in a way that is creative and helps showcase who we are as a community without losing that as we grow and change.
I just actually had lunch with Renee Staley, who runs the Giving Plate, on Monday, and heard her need in the community. The number of families that are using her services have gone up so much this last year. Their donations have gone down somewhat. They've had to go to 2 times a month where people can come in and get food, but she really serves a lot of people that are barely hanging on. They're in their home. And I do feel that as much help as we can give the Giving Plate, like I reminded her, please apply for grants through the county. We do have some funding available. It's really, the need is tremendous. So she does the backpacks on Fridays for students that may not have food. And she goes, Patty, we have to be so careful because we don't know if they're going to have a refrigerator or not. So everything we put in that backpack has to be available just to be, out, not refrigerated for the weekend. But, the need is great at this time. There's a lot of people really struggling. You can see it. She's spending so much more money today than she was a year ago, like 70% more when she's buying things. It's great need, and I'm glad to see it's number 4 on your list.
Yeah.
I would just mention, I'm glad to see that this Skyline Forest project, or the preservation of the Bull Springs Tree Farm, is still a focus for visioning groups in the city and in our community. And one thing that I think would be worth exploring or checking out, that the county is working on, that may be of interest to people who are interested in a big vision for Bull Springs Tree Farm, is a campground feasibility study that we are just wrapping up right now. That essentially, I think what's going to be most important that comes out of that is some numbers, some economics, essentially helping people understand if we have a very large demand for camping in our community. Is it revenue neutral or revenue positive to create campgrounds on public lands, or lands held by a land trust or some other entity, and could that potentially be a source of revenue to pay back financing or debt on the purchase of a portion of the Bull Springs Tree Farm? Just the preliminary numbers that we've seen so far, I think, indicate to me that there's some opportunity there. So that could be, it's at 33,000 acres. You're not going to make the whole thing a campground, but for some portion of that property, that may be a revenue strategy that can help with the financing of a purchase.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner Chang. I think the Skyline Forest, it was one where it forced the working group to get really creative and think about a lot of acreage. How do we use it to serve a lot of different needs? We're looking at, youth programming and offering camps or ways for folks to do outdoor learning or experience learning, for veterans, for camping, and the like, trails, and so forth. So I think it's an opportunity to continue those creative conversations, and I'm grateful that feasibility study happening. It's a useful piece in the puzzle.
Thank you.
Well, and just following that a little bit. So the Skyline Forest, Bull Springs Tree Farm, that's privately owned property in our county, correct? I mean, it's privately owned. So I always struggle with we're talking about somebody's private property, and I don't understand. Is it truly an environmental play, or somebody wants the playground, or they don't want anybody else to move here, or what? As I say, it's kind of a disconnect in my world. Oh, well, we the community decided we're going to dream about your private land over here. Yeah. As I say, I'm just sharing my thoughts.
The landowner is interested in selling to a conservation buyer. And the reality of it is, especially with climate change, this is land that is not as productive timberland as other places. So it is, it's,
there's other scenarios out there.
Private property owners, of properties like these can be interested in long-term industrial forest land ownership and stewardship. They can be interested in making money from their property in whatever way is, whatever way presents itself. And with this property, one of the best opportunities is to sell to a conservation buyer to make a profit for a landowner, which
yeah.
is, what motivates a whole lot of private property owners in our nation.
That's in the scenario of state of Oregon's land use system, which kind of limits private property opportunity. So I'm just pointing out there's two sides to this conversation too, and it gets overrun by a group of people studying somebody's private property sometime and saying, "Oh, we need to go do this on your land." So I'm just
Selling to a conservation buyer is something that the property owner has expressed interest in doing. What's your vision for the Bullstream Street Farm?
I haven't studied it a lot.
you
but
wanna
this
put
is
out-
just
if
a
you wanna
point that
put out a
resonates with
vision.
me when we say we've started a community effort and we've determined we want to tell you what you're going to do with your private land. As I say, it's a message to private property owners. That's all.
Yeah.
I think I'll just add-
It's, I just want to emphasize that it's not about telling you what you're going to do with your private property. It is about purchasing a piece of private property for an agreed upon price. And that is as free market and as American as anything you can name.
Difference of opinion. Yeah. that's
No, and it's not a difference of opinion. It is a fact that this is a private landowner who is interested in selling a piece of land for a profit. That is not not some crazy, conservation scheme, somebody telling somebody what to do with their land. It is a transaction between a willing seller and a willing buyer.
strong arm by the state land use system that limits the opportunities is the next part of that equation from my point of view.
So are you proposing then that land use protections
proposing
for
that
this
we-
property are removed?
I'm proposing
Is
that
that-
we open up the state land use system 50 years later and have some serious discussions about this. And we have homeless issues. We have cost of housing and land rising astronomically. And there's variables in there that could be controlled at different levels. We're not going to solve it here right now. I'm just pointing out. Yeah.
Appreciate the discussion. I think it's really important. I mean, these are the pieces that'll move us forward and the issues that we have to tackle. So I do appreciate, I think the community really focused on this swath of land more than any other piece of land because of its location and its access to the wilderness and access to the forest. Also, wildfire is a big concern there. So there's a lot of variables that went into the selection. I think it's been a long time community conversation, and I think it's still front of mind for many community members.
Well, and we have 79% publicly owned land already. So as I say, when we say, to get access to, it's like, we already have by far the majority.
So this is
So,
great.
as I say, I'm just throwing out information.
Unrelated to the Envision Bend project. This is a great opportunity for you to articulate your vision for the 33,000 acre Pulse Springs.
Oh, I haven't studied that,
So
but
if you want to, I mean,
my
you're
vision is, it's a shame.
you're casting aspersions on other people's visions. So if you have a vision you want to put out that the community can consider, please feel free to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And then item number 4 talks about library services. I think library was mentioned before. We don't really do library. So is that the right terminology there, or what is?
It could not be. I mean, listed as Deschutes library services.
So the library is a separate countywide district, and that's not under the county. So as you say, just acknowledging maybe there's a little.
Refinement.
Yeah, exactly. That's all. It's a
Thanks.
living document.
Well, I picked up the healthy food part of that.
Oh, yeah, as I say,
Because I do believe that that's an immediate need in our community.
Thanks. Any other questions? Or I'm happy to.
good discussion.
I'm happy to continue this conversation offline with any one of you at any time. And I again value the opportunity to share this community information with you and the community document. So appreciate for your support and continued conversation.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you very
coming in,
much
Matt.
For all the members of the board here in Vision Bend. It's a very exciting community effort. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Unpaid, yeah.
Unpaid members of the board. Yeah. So great. Thank
I
you.
look forward to future discussions about some of these specific strategies and what I, as a county commissioner, could do or what the county could do. Thank you.
Hey, me too. Okay. Thank you so much. So at this time, we're a few moments ahead for a public hearing. Oh, no, just 5 minutes though. So, are we going to be fine to proceed for 5 minutes early from a posted public hearing, Dave?
Beg your pardon?
Can we proceed 5 minutes early from a posted time here?
We probably should wait if we're a few minutes early. Yeah,
Yeah.
you might want to take up another item.
That's fine. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, let's take a break. Yeah, because that's an awkward moment. Just, yeah, about 4 minute break. We'll reconvene at 10:05 for the public hearing. We're back. Thank you very much. So at this time, item number 6, public hearing on ordinance extending the effective date of previous ordinance. And we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. Dave Doyle, County Attorney. You'll recall back in August, the board adopted an ordinance which amended County Code Section 11.04, which is the camping code. That when you adopted that, it was understood, I think, by everybody that for that to really have any impact, the county needed to identify some sites where folks could be relocated or redirected to with regard to outside homeless camps. That hasn't occurred, and it doesn't appear that that's going to occur anytime all that soon. And so staff has recommended that the board consider adopting this ordinance number 2023-024, which would extend the effective date of those amendments to Code Section 11.04 to March 31st of 2024. We had a brief work session on this a few weeks back. If you're prepared to proceed, I'd suggest you open the public hearing, call for any testimony, and then if you're inclined to deliberate and make a decision, staff's recommendation would be that you move first and second reading by title only and emergency adoption of ordinance 2023-024, which will extend that date to March 31st.
Okay, so this is a public hearing on the matter. Thank you for the introduction on that topic. This order would extend the date from November 21st, 2023 to March 31st, 2024. Is there anyone to speak on this matter? Is nobody online? So seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. So for deliberations. Thoughts?
Well, I think having this ordinance is helpful for us to keep us laser focused on establishing the authorized, planned, managed, structured, regulated outdoor shelter opportunities that our community needs and that we need in order to ask people to leave unauthorized encampments. So I'm glad that we have this. I'm glad that we can inch the date out a little bit farther so that we maintain our sense of urgency and focus, but we're not at risk of having an ordinance active before we can actually use it.
And I would agree with those comments that, yes, we're moving it forward a bit. And I love to have deadlines out there. I just drove down Parkway 97 yesterday, saw the new tents that are on, next to our parkway. In fact, one of the tent areas was state property that I'd looked at about 3 weeks ago for a camp within the city of Bend. And it's a triangle piece, and I could just see all these tents that were going in that triangle piece. So we definitely have a lot of work to do. The really good news is that the city of Bend in the month of December will have the capacity up to 600 beds. So I think that's really great. And I am hoping that Bethlehem Inn is able to much quicker reopen that facility that the county's spent $900,000 on helping the inn in Redmond. And I know they're going to format the stay there. And I really hope that they can get that done sooner rather than later. And I know Gwen is working on that at this moment. So I'm happy to do you want to make any comments? I can make the motion.
So yeah, just a comment that, this is about land use. We need some leadership by the governor's office, maybe legislative support. There's just not extra green space in the city of Bend that easily point to a place where we want to put this, a camp or whatever, place for people is going to be. So it's just, we're in that same situation. We've been there all year. So that'd be my statement. But yeah, I'm ready for a motion.
Okay, move first and second reading by title only and emergency adoption of ordinance number 2023-024, extending the effective date of the amendments to DCC 11.04 adopted previously through ordinance number 2023-013.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved and seconded, first and second reading. Any other discussion? Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. So this is a first reading of ordinance number 2023-024, an ordinance amending the effective date of ordinance number 2023-013, adopting amendments to chapter 11.04 of the Deschutes County Code and declaring an emergency. This is the second reading, ordinance number 2023-024, an ordinance amending the effective date of ordinance number 2023-013, which adopted amendments to chapter 11.04 of the Deschutes County Code and declaring an emergency. Move for
Yeah, I
adoption.
think your motion did include the adoption as well, didn't it, Commissioner?
Emergency adoption, yes.
Okay, so it's been moved and adopted by that whole package. Okay. Thank you very much.
You Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Item number 8, Oregon Health Authority Grant Agreement.
What about
Did Mr.
7?
7 get?
Oh, sorry. Yep.
I think 7
I
comes.
put checks in, yeah, wrong one. Okay. Item number 7, first reading of ordinance number 2023-025, Stephen Road Track Plan Amendment and Zone Change. We weren't going to forget about you. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Audrey Stewart, Associate Planner with Community Development. The item before you is a first reading of an ordinance approving the Stevens Road Tract Urban Growth Boundary Expansion. This is an application to rezone approximately 261 acres, which is located adjacent to the current UGB. They are changing the zoning from multiple use agricultural to urbanizable area. And there's a concurrent change in the comprehensive plan designation from rural residential exception area to Bend UGB. We held a public hearing before a hearings officer on October 11th, and the hearings officer then issued a decision approving this application. I was before you last week on November 1st for a work session, and at that work session, the board voted unanimously to adopt the hearings officer findings. We didn't receive any appeals of that hearings officer decision, and so now we're ready to move forward with the adoption process. In your packet today, there's a draft of ordinance 2023-025, along with the exhibits such as the findings, the maps, and the legal description of the property. Today's meeting is the first reading, and I'll be back in 3 weeks on November 29th for the second reading. And with that, I'm available for any questions. If there's not any questions or discussion from the board may move to approve the ordinance as written. And within your packet, I've included a draft motion.
Great. As I say, we have had a work session on this and it's been discussed in public meetings previously.
All I'd say in addition is I think that this Stevens Road Tract project is an excellent example of how the legislative process can work to streamline urban growth boundary expansions to provide the necessary buildable land to produce the housing that our community desperately needs. And so I'm very happy to move approval of first reading of ordinance number 2023-025 by title only.
And I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Adair,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. This is first reading by title only of ordinance number 2023-025. An ordinance amending Deschutes County Code Title 23, the Deschutes County Comprehensive Plan, to change the comprehensive plan map designation for certain property from rural residential exception area to Bend urban growth boundary, and amending Deschutes County Code Title 18, the Deschutes County zoning map, to change the zone designation for certain property from multiple use agriculture to urbanizable area. Second reading in 3 weeks. Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So at this time, item number 8, Oregon Health Authority Grant Agreement. Emily and Tom, welcome.
Hello, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Tom Kuhn, Public Health Program Manager.
Emily Horton, Program Manager.
And we're with you today because we received an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority in some of our various program elements, which are our stable funding sources. There are 3 areas where we received an amendment: program element 12, medical reserve corps, and then also in 2 of the public health modernization program elements, PE 5102 and PE 5103. And we're here to answer any questions you might have related to those. As once again, these are just, this is when the funding comes in for these programs, and these are amounts that we are expecting to receive.
As I was reading this and the beginning, the motion talks about grant funding. Is this really grant funding, or is this just our business-like relationship services funded by the state? And it's kind of a higher level concept of, think of it as a
that's really
grant,
good
or
question. I think
yeah.
you could look at it both ways.
I mean, program element with a partner where we implement on the ground and the state has money for it, so we'll be a partner. So I don't know. Yeah.
More of a formal way of saying a grant, I guess you could say.
It's possible that it's kind of legally classified as a grant, but
I know that MRC funding is through an MRC Strong grant that comes from the federal government to the state, and then we are like a sub-recipient of that grant.
Yeah, as I said, just kind of the business relationship. If we're funded for something, we do it. Do we really think of it as grants? But yeah, there may be legal terms in there. That's fine. Yeah, nothing substantive there. Just kind of questioning it when I saw grant again.
Is that something new? Or does it just come in after the fact? Because it wasn't in the previous award balance. This is a new item.
The MRC Strong grant was a new item. We came in August to request to receive that funding, and then hire an MRC Strong grant funded position to manage our newly created MRC. So the Medical Reserve Corps, which was from the volunteer pool that we had previously, that was established during the Mass Vax Clinic, to kind of roll that into emergency preparedness and volunteer management overall.
What scenarios do we see Medical Reserve Corps being kind of engaged? And I think we've got an emergency situation with homeless. We have all kinds of variables all around that. And does this intersect or cross at all, do you think? Or is it really more just pandemic type, full on international medical?
So typically Medical Reserve Corps are exercising for emergency situations. We are working on lots of different mission sets with our MRC right now. Like, we are just in that kind of launch phase. We're shifting everyone from the old volunteer pool to this new system, like training and like signing paperwork and getting everyone. And we've had about over 120 people sign up to be in the Medical Reserve Corps. So just managing that volume of people and their training is quite a bit of work. And then secondarily, working on these mission sets, which, can depend on what we're looking at, from sheltering mission type sets. If there's a wildfire, how are we going to do that? And how does the Medical Reserve Corps support in those type of situations? And also kind of blue sky activities. So involving the Medical Reserve Corps in additional needs related to, public health work that's going on that's not necessarily in an emergency. So we're working on all those like job descriptions and mission sets that would kind of work on that.
Just, there may be a scenario out there where like, okay, well, here's a mission. If we truly do a managed camp and we're moving people and there's a moment in time, this may be a great opportunity to have people help, and not looking for harm, looking to improve the situation.
And we're excited for all the different variables and like ways that the MRC can be used. It's clearly not all fleshed out, and a lot of it is people coming to us and requesting those resources, and then seeing how we can meet those needs with the people that we have and the information.
Great.
Well, this is a function that I'm hoping somewhere within public health we can rise to meet the need, and I'm curious whether the Medical Reserve Corps might be able to play a role in this. But last week, the EPA was in town to help us explore the possibility of doing a very large prescribed burn west of the city of Bend to catch up on the acres we need to get prescribed burned so that fuel reductions are so that fuel conditions are better, more favorable for not having a catastrophic fire in the west side of the city of Bend. That activity, that project will likely result in a significant pulse of smoke coming into the city of Bend, and we got kind of assurances from air quality regulatory agencies, the EPA, DEQ, Oregon Health Authority, the Oregon Department of Forestry that they would work on us to help make this happen. But our job is to communicate and mitigate to the maximum extent possible this smoke incident for our community, so that even if ambient air quality is not so good for a day or two, people's exposure to smoke will be less, and there's going to be a lot of communication work involved in that. And then I can also picture, a need to work individually with people on, do you need a home HEPA filter at your house? How does that work? And, where can people go for a clean air shelter opportunity overnight, things like that. And so I don't know whether that's a medical reserve corps type duty, but it does seem like if there's health-minded volunteers available that they might be able to play a role in that incident.
Sure. Sarah on my team was at that meeting. I think.
Yes.
And I haven't had a chance to debrief with her fully on like what our roles would be there, but I definitely think in a scenario like that, the fact that we have time to plan and know and to expect the smoke is different than a lot of the other like emergency, situations that we deal with when smoke is coming and we don't know when or why or what's going to happen.
Right.
So that planning aspect will, I'm sure, take a lot of time and effort to make sure that we are giving people the resources and information in order to how to protect themselves with known smoke exposure coming. So
yeah,
and hopefully that will increase their awareness for when we do have other smoke exposures later during wildfire season.
yes, definitely. Yeah, and we can't give you an exact date because we could put a date on the calendar and then the weather conditions could be completely unfavorable. So we could give you hoping to give you a window.
Definitely spaces for the MRC to do work.
So
Excellent.
Commissioner Dare, it's your turn. What do you want the medical corps to do?
Well, no, I was
I
just
just
wondering,
joking.
Emily, what do you think, what are the average number of days now that the city of Bend has smoke? I thought I'd heard it was like 58 or something already. I mean, right now I am driving through smoke. BLM is doing burns on my route home, and somehow they've got a million piles out there that they've been cleaning up, and that's really great. But I'm just wondering, do you know how many days we already deal with smoke? And people honestly need to be aware of that, and they need to get their HEPA filters when there's only one left at wherever they buy it, at Home Depot or wherever you buy those. What?
The last one available?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that because there's such a need for that if we have 58 days of smoke. So do you remember that?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I know that this year was significantly longer than the previous years. I don't know.
No, I just remember in 2020, I think is when we really had.
It was at 800 out where I am, 800. It was like, and the chart goes from 0 to 300. And I'm going like, I remember we were the worst in the world because all, the 4,000 homes that burned, all that smoke came over the Santiam Pass back over here. And it lasted for at least 8 days. So, I
mean, we are doing a lot of messaging. What we find typically is, people are less likely to listen and prepare. I mean, this is a conundrum of preparedness in general until the need arises, and then, they're scrambling to prepare. So it kind of aligns with most of our preparedness messaging, whether it's, you know, winter storms or summer smoke, the ways that we as a general population can prepare ourselves and be ready for those, whether it's buying and having extra HEPA filters, creating box fan filters, you know, sealing up windows and doors, getting an AC for heat. You know, these are all things that we're messaging and talking about. And then additionally, that kind of secondary with the people that don't have the resources to do that, making sure that we're planning and setting up resources for cleaner air spaces, cooling, warming shelters, those types of things. And our emergency preparedness in public health is working on those things. You know, but like we all know, ahead of time and the preparedness message sometimes is difficult to get.
So Emily, what is the goal for the number of volunteers we have part of the system? You said you're over 100 now. What is our real goal?
I would say if we have around 100 to 150 engaged volunteers, that is a large volunteer pool and plenty of people at this point. And one of the reasons that we wanted to have a dedicated manager, right now, Carissa, our staff coordinator, is handling kind of the management of this. And it does take a lot of work to call and walk people through computer systems. And when you have 100 people asking you questions, it can be pretty onerous. We had our launch event a couple of weeks ago and it went really well. We had some trainings and we're just really excited for this opportunity.
I just remember that when COVID hit, we actually had volunteers in somewhere in the county system. And I just, I thank them for caring and being a volunteer. I think that's really important. And if you need more, are we doing another press release or something? Or will it be on the website today?
We do have it on the website and we have had a few media requests, specifically around our launch event that we had and some other, things. We did want to get our coordinator who just started last week on board, trained and up to speed so that they can handle a lot of this before we do a big push. And we also hope to have kind of some more information about the volunteers that we need, the types of volunteers, whether it's, MDs or nurses. There's a place for everyone, but if we have a lot in one category and not very many in another, we'd hope to recruit in some of those specific categories as well.
Great.
So for the 5102, is that public health modernization? Is this the level of dollars you were expecting, or is that?
Yes, it basically brings our current award balance to what it will be for this fiscal year.
Okay, yeah.
So up to this point, we received some bridge funding. We're actually in the middle of writing the grant and submitting it in the next week. And we've received our awards and now we're just putting our work plans together and moving forward with not many significant changes from
So kind of what was expected then.
Yes.
Great.
And I'm tracking from attachment B, what ARPA WF is about, but what does the WF stand for?
Workforce. That's something specific that it started towards the end of COVID and it's trickling off now. It must be spent by June of 2024. So I think this was just some extra dollars the state have that they're distributing so it can get spent.
Okay, well, great discussions on this item. Is there a motion?
So moved, chair signature of document number 2023-963, amending an agreement with the Oregon Health Authority for grant funding.
Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
And Chair will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tom, did you want to say anything about the new director of OHA that was just came out in the news?
I haven't had enough time.
Okay, all right. Yes, because originally the first director only worked for 2 months and then resigned. And so it's taken 5 months, but hopefully I'll be able to meet her at the next LGAC meeting.
Yes, be curious to hear your reaction and impression.
Yes, well, she has she's an MD internist and she has a master's in business administration. So she's got a great combination, whereas, we've had some health directors that had no medical background and she definitely does. So that's nice. I think she went to Harvard. She's on some Johns Hopkins board. So yeah, there's a lot of really good things there.
She seems highly qualified.
Yes, highly qualified and she's only like 33. Yes,
Yeah.
so it's good. Thank you, guys.
Item number 9, a second intergovernmental agreement, coordinated household response office.
Good morning. For the record, Eric Kropp, Deputy County Administrator. For background, about a year ago, the board approved an IGA, as did the 4 cities in Deschutes County, to discuss the operations of the Coordinated Household Response Office. At that time, the Coordinated Office employees were county employees. And so the IGA talked about the role of the county versus the 4 cities. Since that time, a lot has changed. There is an updated IGA for your consideration that acknowledges the move of the Coordinated Office to COIC. There'll be a separate MOU coming before the board at the end of November that will actually outline the relationship between Deschutes County and COIC, with the Coordinated Office moving to COIC. In your packet is that original IGA that was approved last December. And then in the board packet is the second IGA. Since the board packet was published, there were additional edits from the city of Bend. So yesterday I gave the board a copy that at the top says revised 11/7/2023. So that's the one I'll be talking to today. This has been quite an iterative process where we have a draft IGA, we send it to the 4 cities. There's been lots of edits from various city staff, county staff, and legal counsel from both the county and city. So it's been a lot of back and forth and a lot of authors and a lot of editors. So I apologize for the changes that came through. So if the board would like, I could walk through the revised version, the November 7th revised version, and highlight a couple of items that would be most helpful to the board.
So just acknowledging, it looked like there was nothing real substantive. It was more kind of how the document flowed, but yeah, maybe there is. Please proceed.
Yeah, there's most of it is more minor edits under the recitals, under section E. It talks about that the office will now operate under the general direction of COIC. Towards the bottom of that paragraph, it acknowledges that there'll be a separate agreement between Deschutes County and COIC. Recital F talks about legal representation. The original IGA had county legal counsel as the legal advisor to the Crow staff since the staff were county employees. With the move to COIC, the Crow employees will be COIC employees, and so legal representation will come from COIC legal. The other parts of section F are just some cleanup. There were some sentences that stayed in that shouldn't have. Under the terms of agreement, number 1 talks about the original agreement is void. So that's the very first IGA. Under terms of agreement, number 4 talks about the strategic plan. It acknowledges that the strategic plan was submitted July of 2023 to the state. So that date's in there. And then that's the main change.
Did you say 23
Yes.
this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a requirement from the legislation.
Okay.
And then the IGA has attachment exhibit one, which is the Crow board bylaws. Just to highlight a couple of things on that. The bylaws, which were approved by the Crow board last month or earlier this month, talks about the authority of the board and its role. The bylaws talk about board membership. Originally, the board was comprised of a representative of a county commissioner and a city councilor from each of the 4 cities. So it's a 5-member board. That remains, although there are 2 additional members being added to the board as ex officio or non-voting members. One of those will be a representative of the Continuum of Care, and the other is a representative from Neighbor Impact. And then the last thing I'd like to point out about the board bylaws on page 5 of 7, it talks about the advisory committee. That's required in the original House Bill 4123. The advisory committee has a number of categories on page 6, and it outlines the different representatives of the community in different organizations. So that's a summary of the second IGA. I'm happy to take questions if the board is ready to proceed. What we'd ask is that the board approve county administrator signature of the revised second IGA. I'd also ask that if there are any other minor changes that come back from the cities that can be made administratively. If it's anything substantial, we would come back to the board. But oftentimes, even though we keep doing, okay, last call, somebody else ends up reviewing it and finding a typo or a minor edit. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I do have a minor edit from our bylaws.
Here we go.
Neighbor impact has this huge long paragraph, and in the middle of it, I had pointed out, it said, until recently, they were also the fiscal agent for HLC. And I said, I thought these are bylaws. I thought we were putting too much information in these bylaws that wasn't a necessary statement because we're going forward. So I thought we voted to remove that from our bylaws, but maybe we didn't. That's what I thought.
I'll double check that and I would ask the board's permission to make that change if appropriate. And I mean, if it was.
Yeah, maybe we'd have to go back to our minutes from that meeting.
So we're not disagreeing about the factual or historical accuracy about that. We're just asking whether it needs to be in the bylaws.
Correct.
Okay.
And the ideas of bringing a representative from the continuum of care and from neighbor impact was suggested by COIC. So, I mean, it does make sense. They're non-voting and everyone was comfortable with that. I mean, the other cities.
So I have just a few questions about how the coordinated homeless response office is going, and what progress has been made. One of the things I'm interested in understanding better is the advisory committee, whether it's been constituted yet and is actively meeting and is performing its advisory function.
It is not yet. With the approval of this IGA at the county and the 4 cities, then that will help formalize the bylaws. But the advisory committee has not been formed yet.
And I mean, it was in the earlier IGA and bylaws. Has the kind of composition and function of it been changed very much from that earlier concept, or is it still pretty continuous with that?
It's pretty continuous, and part of it is waiting. I mean, as we move the office to COIC, that will be one of their first tasks.
Right, and I do remember there being concern about, you're basically, there could be a substantial amount of overlap between the Homeless Leadership Coalition membership and this advisory committee, and is that placing too much meeting duty burden on people so that they can't get their program work done? Have people has a kind of strategy for mitigating that concern been developed?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it will be some of the same players. That the advisory committee will meet monthly, but I think they're ready to move forward.
Okay. One question. I also was curious about the strategic plan. So now adopted a few months ago, formally, and do we have any metrics or progress reports to indicate that any of the items in the strategic plan are moving forward?
No, not that I'm aware of. The Crow Board has been focusing on this IGA, and then also the subgroup is looking at the public lands that might be appropriate for managed camp. That's been the focus the last couple of months.
They're supposed to get us that report at our next meeting. I believe it's on the 21st. So they got held up for a few reasons I'm not sure of, but I've personally looked at the properties. So just waiting to hear back from them. And I actually hoping that something in that group will be workable from their analysis. And then if we can also talk the governor into the Gales property, it's a quarter of a mile from the UGB, which is like 1,320 feet. So just met with the Gales again last Friday, and they are very interested in being part of our solution for a program.
The other thing about the transition to COIC is they'll have a different staffing model. The current employee will be transferred to COIC, but COIC is, rather than hiring an executive director, COIC will have a model where a program manager will be partially assigned to work with the coordinated office, as well as some other positions part-time. So and the program manager also works on other housing issues. So part of this transition is COIC staffing up.
Commitment of staff resources was one other thing I wanted to ask about. I mean, it was very unfortunate, the way that the whole executive director process played out for the Crow in its early days. But one of the, silver linings, for lack of a better word, of that was that we saw the member governments step forward, committing staff resources to help make the Crow work. And so I'm curious, as we kind of move towards this reorganization with kind of administratively housing the Crow at COIC, will we see the time investment from people like yourself and Mickey at the City of Bend and others who have been stepping up? Will we see that ramp down, or will we have that plus staffing administratively housed at COIC?
I anticipate that continuing. In fact, that's been very enjoyable, is working with staff from other cities on issues. And Chris Ogren, who is the housing analyst for the Crow, we regularly meet with staff from the various cities, including Mickey, and problem solve. And sometimes it feels like we're on the same staff, which is great. Right. Even though we work for different organizations, report to different people, it's been very seamless, and it's something that I've enjoyed working with other staff on these issues.
Great.
It's because it's all of our problems, and having representative, the manager from Lapine has been part of some of our meetings, and it's been really outstanding. People from Sisters have been part of the meetings. Everyone they have a different situation, but if we can all come together, I really think it's helpful.
And I really think that's a value. In the past, when any individual government went forward with some initiative, it was that government alone. And if we start solving these problems where we're working together and providing expertise and knowledge, it'll help all of us.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because that it's in the name of the entity, Coordinated Homeless Response Office, and coordination can happen through the elected officials who sit on the governing board. But if there's active staff engagement from each of the member governments, I think that just dramatically improves the chances that necessary coordination is going to be happening. So I'm really happy to hear that that engagement will continue.
Yes.
Right. Well, if there's no other questions, I would move approval of County Administrator's signature on document number 2023-979 the second intergovernmental agreement for the Coordinated Homeless Response Office, recognizing that there might be some minor word changes from the member cities before a final draft is signed.
For clarifying, it's the revised November 7th version.
Oh, sorry about that.
And I will second that motion.
Yes, so moved. Thank you.
So just for comment, I'm looking forward to turning the corner. We're building a system here. We're working together. We've got committees and boards and resources. There's a goal of, in the vision document here, vision action plan, right in the front page, it has the first photo. It says, Bend the Beautiful welcomes you. And getting back to that, right? I mean, it's pretty awkward
Isn't
right
that
now.
From like 1910.
Yep.
Yeah, that
But-
picture's from, yeah.
But I mean, yeah, you think of this beautiful little town and now we drive down the parkway and we have tents that are moving from intersection to intersection. So I'm just saying the vision is to get something done here and this is putting the structure in place for that.
Well, the fact that there will be almost 600 beds available by the month of December in Bend is incredibly significant. And if we can, get families, in the Bethlehem Inn in Redmond, I'm not quite sure what their goal is, but definitely, we have families in need. So I'm hoping that will happen.
Yeah, citing that picture from early city of Bend, I would say one of the most important things about the Coordinated Homeless Response Office is that it is countywide, and this is a countywide problem. And I think we're actually seeing the most progress in building the capacity that we need, in shelter and service providers, transitional housing, in the city of Bend and the city of Redmond. So, I'm hopeful that the Coordinated Homeless Response Office can help us tackle this problem countywide in other parts of the county as well.
So it's been moved and seconded. Who made the motion? Was that you, Commissioner?
No, Commissioner Chang.
Okay, calling for the
Yes.
vote. Commissioner Chang, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. Thank you so much.
you.
Thank you. So the next item is discussion of consideration of collaborative agreement for managed camp. So this is a little bit more substantive, maybe.
Yes, as background, there's been lots of public discussions about a authorized managed camp. In fact, the board discussed that earlier in this meeting when considering delaying implementation of the camping code. For discussion today is a collaborative framework. This framework was developed by staff, and it started with Commissioner Dare having a meeting with the governor and the mayors of Bend and Redmond. One of the results of that meeting was staff from the governor's office reached out to staff at the cities of Bend, Redmond, and Deschutes County to talk about putting together a collaborative framework plan. The idea of the plan is it would outline the different roles and responsibilities of each of the participating governments. So for discussion today, again, this is a staff version. This outlines a framework plan of what the governor's office would be willing to do, what Deschutes County would be willing to do, and the cities of Bend and Redmond. You'll see that for the county part, it talks about the county supporting the development and authorized camp, including safe parking and a managed outdoor shelter facility, and that the county taking the lead to contract with a service provider to actually operate the camp. There is some language about it would have to be within the county's budget. One of the concerns is that the board has so far set aside a couple $1 million in ARPA funds for it.
Is it 2 million?
It's $2 million.
Okay.
The board has not committed to that $2 million, but so far has set it aside. And if there's a managed camp, there'd be continuing, operating costs. So that's a factor. But really the question for discussion is, what does the board see as the county's role? What does the board see as the governor's office role? And what does the board see as the city of Bend and Redmond? This has been kind of an ongoing discussion where many times one government has a different concept of what the other government should be doing and what responsibilities. So this is really just a starting point for a discussion.
Well, but this draft is pretty mature. I mean, I think it's been kind of whittled down to some safe statements on all parties. Is that where we're at?
Yes, yes, it has changed quite a bit. Again, this is just among staff.
Yeah. So, Deschutes County, we do have the health department. We're, countywide, we're here to, support residents. This is it just changed a couple years ago from my point of view, sitting in this seat, knowing that cities were just taking care of business. Public safety would respond to somebody that looked like they're kind of out of bounds from the cultural norm or whatever, referring to tents on the side of the road or whatever. But it's, escalating quickly right now. So I guess my point is from my fellow commissioners, I don't mind saying we're going to do something. We got to do something. We're in the middle of this. I'd like the safety statements of with resources available county funds, I guess it says. Because there's no magic answer here. We can't buy ourselves out of this. And then the other step is we really need just clarity and leadership from the governor and then in partnership with the legislature. If we're, going to offer a couple acres in the city of Bend and we're thinking we're going to get people out of Juniper Ridge, they don't want that. So, I mean, what's the other opportunity for dispersed, unmanaged camping? I throw out ideas that not everybody's excited about, but we've got to figure out, okay, what the next step is. I think of it as we've got this beautiful community and, Bend the beautiful, just like there in the statement that was pointed out. We're sliding backwards instead of going forwards on this. So, it's good that we're taking this step, signing a document like this. It shows partnership, but as I say, I think we're just stuck when it comes to land use. Sometimes it always comes down to that for me. If we need some elbow room for some people in a supported environment, and it's so hard to, cite something, couple 9 acres at the edge of town, man, we're living in a box. So. Just some statements.
Yeah, I think that the crux of this is where this is going to happen. And I think many people are making a lot of assumptions about what will and will not work. I know that when Hunnell Road was about to be cleared, there were a whole lot of people who said, those people at Hunnell Road, they don't want to go inside. They don't want to go to indoor shelter. The next thing I know, I turned around and, 20% of the capacity at the St. Vincent's Village was people who had just come from Hunnell Road. So, assuming that, people who are out China Hat, who are out in, out in the junipers or in dirt world, that they don't want to be in a managed camp, that they don't want to use indoor shelter if it's set up in a way that fits them, I don't think is accurate or helpful. And
so are you critiquing my comments or should
I am.
comment?
Yeah. I mean, when you said people don't want that, I don't think you know that. I don't
Well,
think I know that.
I think a lot of people that are out there do have animals. And I know for our Veterans Village, that is, I believe that's an individual decision. If someone has a dog that they feel can come into their program, they will accept a few pets. So I know, they've got their RVs and they have their pets and, how important pets are to people. And especially if they're living in their RV, they're even more important for their mental health. So I do believe that that's one of the reasons that these individuals that have fallen on hard times, it's going to be harder, but what we have to do is, I believe it's important that we make a camp that's safe for the people living there too, because there are people out in China Hat that don't want to be there. They want to be somewhere safer. And yet we have to make whatever we do, we have to make it safe for the surrounding community too. So that's why I really think a managed shelter is critical. And I appreciate that, in that paragraph, Eric.
And yeah, so going along with the concern that the where is the crux of the matter with this agreement, I think we need to be open to all kinds of sites. A couple of acres somewhere in the city of Bend may not may not be enough to put hundreds of RVs. And I don't necessarily think that that's a great idea in the first place. We don't need one mega site. We probably need a whole lot of sites that are small enough that you don't have a lot of human chaos, and it's a reasonable management responsibility for some operator service provider, but are big enough that we're using those staff that need to provide wraparound services, provide management at these sites efficiently. So I'm not an expert in this stuff. I don't know what the sweet spot is, but I do know that looking for a site where we can put 200 people is the same challenge that we have faced, to cross to another world that I know that we're all familiar with. It's the same challenge with saying we're going to build a 50 megawatt biomass power plant. We want the one big thing that solves the whole problem. And the one big thing is often not economically viable and not a good quality solution. So we will need to do several projects in several places in order to provide the space and capacity to really put a dent in this problem, and to give us as the county the places. We were just talking about the implementation of the ordinance and pushed it back to March 31st. We need enough spaces for a good chunk of people to be able to ask people to leave North Juniper Ridge. And I think we have to do that over multiple sites, not one.
Okay, one thing I am doing, and I asked the community last week, they ran the story on KBND about safe parking in Bend, expanding that program. Right now, we only have 4 churches participating, but I have taken it upon myself to personally call most all the churches in Bend, and I've started that project, and I'm hoping it may need new leadership for that program if more churches can become involved. But the safe parking program in Redmond has been incredibly successful. They've got social workers that help the people. They're expecting to have an outstanding graduation through this year end. And so I'm hoping by individually calling churches that I can make a difference. And when you have, let's say, like 3 RVs in a church parking lot, 3 RVs here, 3 RVs there, it takes the pressure off those big numbered camps. And I'm making those calls. I'm hoping people will listen to the need and know that it's winter. And if we can help that community and make it so that those people feel part of that little community and they can look out for each other. I remember that's one of the things Rick Russell says about their program. Let's say when 3 or 4 RVs get together, people do look out for each other. And I think community is incredibly important in all of us healing.
Safe parking is a great solution. Thank you for doing that outreach. I would encourage you also, those 4 churches, and I see a member of one of those 4 churches at Safe Parking here today. Those 4 churches have been coordinating closely together for a long time, and they form, I think that the way that this grows is really like that you have a core, and then those churches peer to peer invite other churches to. So I'd encourage you to work with that existing core as well as doing direct outreach to the.
I will definitely do that. I appreciate their longevity in the program and all the people that they've helped. I think it's really to be commended, and I thank them.
So for this letter, are we comfortable with its content? That's what we're working with today. And then it's the big question mark, who will sign? So Commissioner Dare, you're in the Coordinated Homeless Office.
Yes.
And I'm currently the chair, but it's just 3 of us. So it is a commitment by the board to be involved with this. So any thoughts?
I don't know. Should we all sign it, or?
That's certainly an option as well.
I'd be happy to sign.
Yeah, there you go. So
If we all sign it, I think that looks more inclusive. and we're part of the solution. So, yes. So
And
do
is
we
there
need
any-
to have that emotion
Is
in
there
here?
indication that the other parties are ready to sign this version, or are we the first, or what's,
Yes, yes,
which,
that they are willing to sign.
oh, okay, good. So we're maybe getting
City
there.
Managers plan to take it to
Yep.
their city council. I think they've been in communication with their mayor, and the governor's office staff has indicated that the governor would be willing to sign.
Okay.
Can I ask one more question? So on the state side, it says the governor's office will assist with identifying state-owned land for safe parking sites. I know that they shared an inventory within the city of Bend with us. I mean, is there anything in that is actually potentially usable?
Yes.
Okay. Because there were a whole lot of places on there that are, in use state facilities for important state departments. We're not going to put safe parking in the parking lot at the DMV or at the Department of Fish and Wildlife office or places like that.
Or
Yes,
maybe
and
we would.
what the agencies, including Deschutes County, are in the process of doing is identifying land, and what like Deschutes County's approach was, here's all the land we own. And then having the next category, or, one category is land we own that is really not viable, including this property right here that we're meeting at. But the first cut was, here's all the property. Then that's, okay, this is property that is an active use. So that's really off the table, but it's still identified. So there are properties that the state has identified that are not viable.
But after that first filter, there's still some state sites within the city of Bend that are possibilities.
Yes.
It's great to hear.
So is there any proposed changes to this letter as presented? Sounds like not.
So I
guess one minor word change that I would be interested in, but like I'm not, it's not a make or break, is this last sentence of the first paragraph. We could say, for a variety of reasons, many of these people will not or cannot enter the indoor shelter system. Those would be the two words, or the couple of words that I would add to that sentence. Commissioner Dare was just talking about the, people with pets and certain kinds of shelter not having any room for people who are trying to keep their pet with them, because for a whole variety of reasons. So I would say, will not or cannot kind of covers that. And there are all kinds of other barriers with, people worrying about their stuff if they're going into an indoor shelter being stolen, and think, having a hard time, letting go of their old RV that they're nursing along, all kinds of things.
We're happy to make that change if that has the support of the board.
that's fine.
There you go.
And we can say specify indoor shelter system in that sentence as well.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, there are the edits. There are motion. So this will be for the Board of Commissioners to sign, all three of us.
Yes. So I move that we sign the letter as amended today with all three commissioners.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. There we go.
Thank you.
And there won't be another round of city requested revisions, or
I'm not expecting that. Worked closely with the city managers, and they felt that they had the support. I mean, it's possible, but not anticipated.
thank you.
Okay, so that's it for our published agenda. At this time, other items. Go ahead, Nick.
Thank you, Commissioner. And Jen Patterson, if you want to join us, Jen has two items.
Come on down.
One of them is very easy. They're both pretty straightforward. Yeah. One of them is just a meeting time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jen Patterson.
Still morning.
Daylight savings time, right?
Jen Patterson, Strategic Initiatives Manager for the record. My first other item is a follow-up from the Q2 discretionary grants. When Stephanie Robinson was before you, there was a request from Treehouse Therapies for $2,839. This was to support their system development charges. I think there was a question on whether or not in their original order agreement with the board, if it was said in there that the county would pay for those charges. Have the order before us, and it does not state there. It just says that they're responsible for paying their annual SDCs, thank you, SDCs on a biannual basis. So they did come before you in 2021 for the full amount, and the board granted them the full amount. In 2022, they requested the full amount, and the board granted partial amount. So they're once again coming before you requesting the full amount.
So, what's the question now? Are we ready to make a
So, yeah, I
commitment
think-
financially or to just the structure?
Here was,
Yeah.
the question was, they were requesting $2,839 in discretionary grant funding to pay for their SDCs.
And we kind of lost track of what was the history of what that was. Yeah, so as I say, I remember, they definitely had a big SDC commitment. There's a way to pay it off in that long period of time, and we want to be partners with them. But yeah, I don't know that we're committed to paying the whole thing off over time. So yeah, partial payment that one time was where we got to the second year, I guess. So what's, the will of the board? Are you asking for us to
It's
commit
an
now,
individual
or-
thing, isn't it?
Individual, if you want to contribute from your Q2 discretionary grant funding.
Well, it would be nice to maybe hear from them again, but I'm happy to do $500 because I do believe that their program was really outstanding. It would just kind of be nice to have a little follow-up at some point.
An update.
Yeah, an update.
And I went there at their facility a couple years ago and met with them and talked with them. But yeah, I'd support an update too. And yeah, $500 seems to be a good number at this time. For me also.
And so it was 2,839, was that?
Correct.
Mhm.
And we're just trying to address the other half of it or all of it?
They're asking for the full amount.
Please put me down for 500 as well.
The second order, or the second topic is I spoke with Commissioner DeBonne yesterday. And there's a temporary placeholder for the next board meeting on Monday, the 13th at 9 a.m. And just wanted to put it
Yeah,
up
get
for
real
board
clear.
discussion. There's a couple of topics I have to bring before the board. The non-time urgent, but that is willing to go is the camping feasibility study final report. And just for your consideration, they're only able to present that in the morning on that date. If not, we can come before the board first week of December at a regular scheduled board meeting.
So if we're available, 9 a.m. Monday would be good because that'll be the beginning of our AOC week. So then we'll have the afternoon available. Get organized.
Okay, so it still shows up on my calendar at 1. So you're telling me we're flipping it to 9 a.m.?
That's why,
For discussion.
yeah, it was a
Oh.
proposal that needed to be discussed, and we all
Okay,
need
do
to
we have a
hear.
long meeting? Are you all going to Salem that day?
I was planning on going on Tuesday to Eugene, and then
Excuse me, yeah, Eugene.
and I had scheduled myself for an 11 o'clock on Monday, so I don't know and I could move it, but we'll have to look at the agenda items.
I made a breakfast appointment from 8 to 9:30, which maybe I can bump forward, but then I also have a meeting with Sharon Smith from the Bend Pine School District at 10:30, which
Yeah, and I
maybe
scheduled her for 11, so that's.
Brenda
Yeah, there you go.
was Sharon flexible?
Yeah, she should be, yeah. This should be a
Um,
minor issue.
The 9:30 might be fine too, though.
Okay, I have a meeting with Megan at 9 over our agenda for the coordinated household response.
So 9:30 would be a lot safer time.
Yeah, 9:30 would probably work for me.
I'd be happy to try and bump that breakfast meeting forward, but if 9:30 works better for you too, then let's do that.
Great.
So 9:30 to 11 maybe, or if wherever we push Sharon Smith.
Yeah,
out to.
and then whatever agenda items are ready, but yeah, probably won't be a long meeting.
I don't know what
That'll
we
be
have.
next Monday.
I mean, lock that. up
Good.
right
Well, as I
now.
say, we all needed to kind of compare notes on that one.
Two items.
I have two items to bring before the board, the camping feasibility study. Mark Buckley will be coming. It's about 25-minute presentation and then discussion with the board. And then the second item is bringing the short-term rental business license briefing before the board for consideration.
So this will be upstairs work session style. Yeah. So 9:30 to 11 or 11:30. Is 11:30 too tight or?
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna look at that short-term rental business license, I'm gonna be very interested in that. I have a lot of questions, so I want to make sure we have enough time. 2 hours.
Will it be published?
If 2 hours can work, then
Yeah, I
that
think
seems.
yeah, as I
like
say,
enough.
Take about 45 minutes. So then that, and I'm not sure if there's any other
Yeah.
agenda items from.
Okay. But yeah, 9:30 start and then we'll,
We don't have any others yet? Okay.
Okay,
here we go.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Whitney and Lee are both coming up now for.
All
additional
right.
other
Yeah,
items.
let's bring it on.
Good morning, Lee Randall, Facilities Director.
Whitney Hale, Deputy County Administrator.
So as you know, we have an application for the AJ Tucker Building before the Bend Landmarks Commission for November 21st hearing. And in talking with our historic architecture consultant, she suggested that it may be helpful for our application have a letter of support from the board. So we wanted to bring that to you this morning for discussion and consideration.
So just kind of the context of the situation that we've done, I mean, kind of bringing the whole big picture together and signing it.
Yeah, I
Is that-
think the letter would probably outline the project and the need for the project and the county commitment to it, as well as the variety of options that the board considered specific to the AJ Tucker building and sort of what that looked like, the public process the county engaged in, and then kind of your support for the concept that you moved forward for the board's consideration.
Mhm.
So
Just something on the record.
yeah. We also potentially could engage other stakeholders if that was something that the board had an interest in terms of support for the courthouse expansion project. Those letters likely wouldn't be quite as detailed specific to the AJ Tucker building itself, but more in terms of support for the courthouse expansion holistically.
And then if the board supports it, we would bring it back for final approval on Monday, the 13th.
There you go.
That would be one topic because the hearing then is the next week.
Correct. I think like
Typically, the packet for the commissioners, my understanding is it's put together the Tuesday before the meeting. And so if we could bring the letter back to the board on Monday, the 13th, we'd be able to submit that in time to be included in the Historic Landmark Commission's packet.
So you're supported for that?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, let's proceed.
sounds like a plan.
And is the board also supportive of us reaching out to those partner agencies to see if they also might be interested in writing supplementary letters? Or would you prefer that we move forward at this time solely with a letter from the board?
And who, is there a list of who?
Are you talking about the city of Bend or who are you saying? Do we need to?
We were thinking we could reach out to the circuit court and just potentially request a letter kind of outlining their need for future space
From the DA's office too.
and that was another partner that we had discussed.
And I would support that. I mean, there could be some good, because it's historical in itself, our 1940s courthouse and our 70s courthouse and our expansion plans. The elbow room is going to be available. So there could be some good paragraphs of support there also.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next item, and this is something that Whitney and I've coordinated on, this relates to Veterans Village and the payment of system development charges, SDCs, to the city of Bend and to the Parks District. The total amount, as we understand it, combined between the two is about $107,000. As we understand that the other option would be if the property were designated as and deed restricted for affordable housing for a period of 20 years, in which case at least the city of Bend would waive that. We don't know about the Parks District. So we just want to, we've discussed this individually with commissioners, and we're at the point now where we just need to finalize that agreement with, is it with the Bend Heroes Foundation, or is it's primarily with them is what the agreement is. And we've already committed certainly the dollars to build the project. The question is about the SDCs.
So when I heard about this, I thought it'd be nice to lean into this so we didn't have this overhanging thing if the use ever changed out in the future. So that was my first thought. And if we had the resources for this. And then, today's recognition of Dick Tobiasen reminds me that, man, he costs us a lot of money sometimes. Just joking.
Tony, that will be in the paper. Dick will go like, what?
Oh, and he's proud of it though.
Well, you know what? With almost 17,000 veterans in Deschutes County and another 4,600 in our neighboring counties, we have a lot of appreciation for they've served.
And we got a veterans village, a functioning, thriving veterans village for a whole lot less than the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners had to pay. So,
So do you support SDC payment?
I'm open either way. The idea that we'll be doing something besides Veterans Village within 20 years, I'm skeptical that we will be doing anything besides Veterans Village within 20 years. So if we can save a chunk of SDC funding, of money on SDCs by just committing to 20 years of Veterans Village, I'm supportive of that. But if my fellow commissioners have reasons that they really want to maintain that flexibility, we can just pay the SDCs too. I can go either way, but.
So that's a reminder. So the first discussion was the city, right? The city system development charges. So that when I heard that, I'm like, well, let's be businesslike, because the city could always use an extra $50,000 to put that next, whatever X of sewer, water, infrastructure, whatever it is. And then the park district came up. So when I heard about the city, I was supportive, knowing that we're going to support our, jurisdiction for their system needs. And then the park district showed up. So there's kind of two different conversations there too.
So you're
supportive.
You're parsing it apart, and you feel good about paying for the
City.
SDCs,
Yeah.
but not the park district.
Well, I mean, it wasn't part of the conversation originally. I'm just pointing that out. So we could still ask the park district if they're in a spot where they can waive fees or delay fees or whatever, and support the city.
I mean, on the other hand, I can see parks actually playing a really valuable role for the folks who are living at Veterans Village, to have a little bit of space outside and nice natural setting. I mean, it's probably a very helpful part of the whole, package of service provision that helps people.
So then it's $50,000 for the park this season.
Yeah. So, so I guess I'm saying I feel good about putting money into infrastructure for the city. I feel good about putting money into the parks. I also feel good about just committing to having Veterans Village for 20 years. So they'll waive those fees. Either way.
Any thoughts, Commissioner?
Well, I originally the city was asked for 150,000 and they kind of hummed and hawed and went around this little, and I was like, oh my gosh, we need this done. The program is so incredibly successful. Would I commit to 20 years for the program? We probably need it. I mean, the number of veterans that are committing suicide on a daily basis in our country is astronomical. And I'm sure that, I don't have a problem either paying it now or committing to 20 years. I'm sure we'll have the need.
Yeah.
Either way is fine for me.
So I lean towards paying it. As I say, this is going to help the jurisdictions to do what they want to do. We're not going to separate them. So we have opportunity to do that at this time. So if we can make a motion.
Yeah, we certainly
need a motion, or
we need to know if we're either going to put a deed restriction on the property to keep it affordable for 20 years, or or not, and we're just going to proceed with paying. Of course, there could be the piece if we put the deed restriction on the property, we wouldn't pay the cities, and then it would still be helpful if we had clarity from the board that we don't know what the outcome of the Parks District decision would be. That's ballpark $57,000. But if we had that flexibility, well, if the Parks District doesn't approve it, then we would pay that. But if they do, then the whole piece. But
Right.
but the threshold issue is deed restriction or not.
Okay.
And with Christy here, maybe she has something to.
I mean,
Christy, do you have something
The rest of
different?
the story.
I mean, it is, you know, that I do think it's important to think about the $100,000. This is ARPA funds? Or
No, it's going to be general fund. It was initially going to be ARPA, and then there were some issues. And so we've with our budget office, we've made some different allocations that really work well to continue to support our ARPA funded services as well as to support the Bend Heroes in this
well,
project.
I mean, regardless of where it comes from, $100,000 is useful. I mean, especially $100,000 of general fund money. We were just having a discussion about how we've, you know, reserved $2 million of American Rescue Plan funds for, you know, managed camps, outdoor shelter, and you know, once something is built, it's going to need to be operated long term, and $100,000 of general fund money can be held for as many years as we need to support operation of something else that we're going to build that we're going to need to operate. So it's, you know, I would feel good about, you know, providing $100,000 of, you know, infrastructure funding to the city and Parks and Rec. I would also feel pretty good about saving $100,000 for operation of facilities that we are on the hook for in the future.
Well, we actually don't know the decision of Bend Parks and Rec, correct? They're going to let us know in another week or so?
Correct. It's their board hasn't had the opportunity to discuss this item, and they don't meet again until, I believe, November 21st. And so it's their staff indicated that depending on the outcome of the board's discussion today, it is something that their board could discuss when they meet next.
I'd be happy. I mean, I know a fair number of the Bend Park and Rec board members. I'd be happy to lean on them individually in the meantime as well, if we're concerned that well, whether that's going to happen or not.
Well, so then it gets back to me. We're in the same place I was. So I support the city of Bend SDCs, and if we, you know, wait for the parks decision or ask them for the waiver, that's good. That's right where I'm at.
The 57,000. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, so
Do we need a motion?
But I think but the key question is, so no deed restriction or no deed restriction? Because that's, unless Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of the threshold question.
At some point in time, we may actually need that land for public safety. Honestly, we might need it.
Right.
And so and we can move the Veterans Village. We have the model, we know, and all those buildings, I believe, are movable, which is wonderful. Yeah, they're all movable. So I would say I wouldn't want to tie it up for the future.
So a motion for STCs for the city of Bend. in
Right.
support of Veteran Village.
That's my motion.
But they won't give us the SDC relief unless we deed restrict it. And that's what the city of Bend is offering, right? That's the deal.
Right.
Correct. That's what the city of Bend is, the waiver only with the deed restriction with the
Right.
city.
And I don't
know.
think it's forward thinking for the county to do that. At this, we could always have, that property is pretty significant for public safety.
Are there two numbers then, or am I
Yeah.
either 50,000 or something else?
Looks like the city's portion is 54,899 and Parks and Rec is 52,437.
But for the 54,000 for the city, is that remove a deed restriction?
Yeah, if it's paid to the city, then there's no deed restriction.
No deed.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I'm supportive of that.
And just the last piece of this is, to be clear, the city in their letter to us, they did state that if we did pay it now, we would have a credit for how we use that property in the future. Whereas the waiver may just run with the affordable housing unit for 20 years. And then as Commissioner Dare was saying, if we use it for public safety in the future, we may be then subject to the SDCs at that time, as opposed to having a credit that we would obtain at this point for the SDCs we will pay for this use.
I mean, but Veterans Village is pretty infrastructure unintensive, right? I mean, like if we build a 4-story building on that site in the future, the pipes that have been put in the ground, I mean, all that stuff, it's not, we're going to need to pay for more SDCs anyway, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
even though the individual units do have plumbing to them, I don't imagine that would be supportive. I don't know if Lee's still in here, but that wouldn't be supportive.
He's right behind you.
Oh, perfect.
There
For a
is-
future project, that would all have to be
the
redetermined.
infrastructure for 15 or
Yeah.
22 tiny homes, I mean, it's still pretty small.
Yeah.
Right.
It may be more significant than it might seem, because it's based on fixture counts.
Yeah, full-time
and,
residency.
Time occupied.
Mm-hmm.
And so as part of Veterans Village, we've done calculations of the existing private lift station, for instance, for sanitary sewer. And that's sized appropriately for the amount of development going on currently. And so that really is the part of the city infrastructure. Everything beyond that, actually, even that is county owned and considered private. So everything that Veterans Village has put in on the site is part of the private development. We wouldn't necessarily use those individual, improvements. But overall, I wouldn't expect that we would need to have a more significant city infrastructure leading to the site, because we already have that.
Okay.
And so it would be, at the time, we'd evaluate it based on the planned use that the county might use the property for. But currently there are services to the site, and whether or not those would be upsized, we'd determine at the time. But the having the SDC credit would likely be a positive thing for us.
Okay. A lot of good reasons to do any of the above options. I'm good with what I'm good.
So is there a motion for supporting the City of Bend's SDCs?
Yes, I move supporting the City of Bend's SDCs. I think you said $54,899 perhaps.
She's
And
right on.
just to have some flexibility there in case that does change a little bit, we don't.
Plus or minus
minus.
Thereabouts.
But
approximately.
exploring the SDCs with the park district, I mean, they would only give us the SDC waiver if we did the deed restriction.
I'm not sure. I'll defer to Whitney on that. She coordinated with.
Well, and I was just trying to separate them into two different motions. That's why I was doing.
Oh, okay. You're not
Yeah,
you're not
yeah.
saying we're gonna do pay one SDC and not.
Yeah, we didn't.
Okay.
It's a different
Okay.
conversation. is what I
Got
was
it.
thinking.
All right.
So do you
I'm
support
sorry.
the?
So could you repeat the motion? It's for the
I
city.
move that we pay the City of Bend approximately plus or minus $54,899 for the Veterans Village.
SDCs. Second.
Okay, any other discussion? Calling for the vote. Commissioner Dare.
Yes.
Commissioner Chen.
Yes.
Chair will vote yes. So that's the city. Now, what are the options for the park district? Say pretty please, or?
Right. I think the options would be that the board could have a similar motion for the amount of $52,437. Alternatively, you could postpone the decision and allow the Parks and Rec board to meet and discuss this item and consider a potential waiver. I will say that in discussing this with their staff, the parks has a couple of criteria that they consider when waivers come before them. And one of them is if the city has an exemption as well. So in this case, that would not be the case based on the first motion that the board made. I think a third option could be that the board could motion to cover the cost of these SDCs pending future discussion by the Parks Board. And potentially, if the Parks Board were supportive of a waiver, we could look at some sort of creative mechanism to reimburse the county for that cost. I think we're all aware that Veterans Village desire is to try and get these open by Veterans Day. And so the option that delays this until the Parks Board meeting on the 21st would cause, it would make that difficult.
We're missing Veterans Day because that's on Saturday. So, yeah, we're going to be
Eric's still shooting for that. And also the city won't provide a certificate of occupancy until this is,
Yeah, so this
addressed, so.
needs to be
Okay.
responded to.
So given that the Parks District is unlikely to grant us an SDC waiver because they follow the city of Bend, I think we should just go ahead and pay it and move to pay it and move on.
And just to clarify, I don't want to predetermine an outcome. I think it's one of the criteria they evaluate, but it wouldn't be I'm not aware that it would be a definite no. It's one of the criteria that they would.
So would the motion then be to pay the Parks SDCs if required? I mean, just
Right.
that simple, just so that that's clearly articulated both to the city, the parks, and Bend Heroes.
And what was the dollar amount again?
$52,437.
So I move that we pay the Bend Park and Rec District system development charges for the Veterans Village expansion in the amount of approximately $52,437 if required.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and Chair will vote yes. Thank you so much.
and then just one more item to this, sorry. Just if the board could support Commissioner DeBonne as the chair to sign the document, that would be
For both of them?
It's all in one document. Yeah, it's just an amendment to the memorandum
Okay.
of understanding that we first executed back in March of
The
20.
chair signature.
Yes.
So is that, separate motion, chair signature of document?
It's an MOU with
It's an amendment to
Veterans Village.
with Bend Heroes Foundation and Central Oregon Veterans Outreach that memorialized the original agreement. So this is just an amendment to that.
Move chair signature on an amendment to the MLU with Bend Heroes Foundation and Central Oregon Veterans Village. Does that cover it?
I'll second it.
Okay, anything else? I see none, Commissioner Chang,
Yes.
Commissioner Dare,
Yes.
and chair votes yes. Thank you.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm not aware of any other items from staff at this time.
Okay, so a couple items for myself, last night, Environment and Natural Resources Newberry Regional Partnership meeting. We had a resonating moment with elk hunting in Sun River, and they decided that, community meeting was going to be at that Environment and Natural Resources meeting last night, which was wonderful. We had about 55 people there, best attended event. So yeah, I guess there was, a couple elk shot out in the Forest Service land, but it's right between Sun River and private property, a little peninsula out there. So the outcome of that, though, is that there's a request to have a roundtable, Forest Service, Fish and Wildlife, Oregon Hunters Association residents, and the county, because the discussion is there a way to either sign it better or Forest Service to have a no shooting or no hunting opportunity, or, there'll be questions around it. So that was a very engaging moment last night, but Nick had asked for some support, just getting a date and, finding a way we can get that. And it's been done before. We have duck hunting on the Deschutes River, across the river from private residences. So like 20 years ago, there was this roundtable at the county, same kind of scenario, it's just residences affected by hunting, legal hunting mostly. There may have been somebody might have been out of bounds there, but most of the hunters were following every rule there is, except it was right out people's backyards. So yeah, roundtable, and possibly by the end of the year. I don't know if we can do it before the end of the year.
Speaking of duck hunting, I can't off the top of my head kind of place where these things are, but there was a constituent named Carol Gothi who there were still issues with legal waterfowl hunting in her neighborhood, and just some of those neighbors being very concerned about bullets whizzing by or shot whizzing by their homes, and not feeling safe to go outside, things like that. So maybe we could.
I've been in her living room. I know all about that one too.
Maybe we could bundle these to get.
And shot drops from the sky. It's not going at it's just dropping. So if you hear it, It's not like it was shot at. And which is, I'm not advocating for, but I mean, just the terminology there, you've got to be careful with.
I mean, the people that she had contact me were describing not shot falling from the sky. I mean, you know, when a bird takes off, if somebody's shooting at the bird when it's just barely off the water, that's not up in the air and then coming down. It's still pretty low.
Yeah, and that was what was discussed many years ago. There's a peninsula on the other side of the river. There's a clear delineation where hunters aren't supposed to go any closer to the property. So a lot of history there.
Yeah, I mean, in that instance, I mean, it seemed like the issue in question was should areas close to residences be declared, you know, non-hunting areas, and this it seems like that's kind of the question that's being considered.
Well, that's a request from the residents, you know, and it's a choice to live with your backyard in the forest, and the Forest Service is a hunting area. So it's just a natural conflict. It's what we do. This is where we live. So, but we can have a roundtable about it. State police, you know, are the game wardens, so they can come and be part of it too.
So if I can just ask two questions. One, is Deschutes County the convener? I mean,
I will be the convener. I mean, I committed to that last night.
Perfect. Okay.
On camera.
Okay. And then just my second question, is there another facilitator, or is it just going to be just a?
So we need to do a little more. Yeah. So this is last night. So, I mean, we can talk about being very businesslike about how we do this. I'm not throwing caution to the wind here. It's just, I was in the middle of it last night. So, and I mean, I feel for the residents, you know, there was a moment, and it may, you know, there's hunting ethics involved and just a whole bunch of aspects to this. We're meeting in Lapine tonight. So, 5:30, I think, at the joint meeting. And then, another note for me, I was able, I put a letter together and sent it to the governor, Speaker of the House, and the Senate President, asking for ODOT maintenance funding. One of the realizations is when ODOT has to do those cleanups on the side of the road, those are a lot of those maintenance dollars, you know, and as I said, I'm not doing detailed analysis of their budget, but I got to imagine it's on the maintenance side of the house. And we've heard that it costs, you know, $10,000 every time they clean up a homeless camp. And now the message is that their winter maintenance is going to be down. So I just letting my fellow commissioners know that I did write a letter asking for, you know, the concept would be a emergency board allocation, but I don't know that they're going to respond to it, but I was able to send a letter like that out. And one more, Commissioner Chang, just for my information, when you said the EPA was in town and we were at the table, who are you referring to? Is that collaborative or?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, I explained that the EPA was coming for a roundtable. And
But just who's we?
Yeah,
I was just, that's all.
Myself, Sarah Worthington, and Kevin Moriarty were all invited to this event on behalf of the county.
But who, when we say we're gonna have a large smoke event, who's we that says we're gonna have a large smoke event? I mean, is it the Forest Collaborative, I guess is my question, or is it the Forest Service, or is it, I mean, who's?
These are burns that the Forest Service has been trying to do for a decade.
And I'm just trying to get information.
And there are quite a number of entities who are trying to support them in getting that work done. The reason that myself, and Sarah Worthington, and Kevin were invited was because
invited by who? As you know, I mean,
we're invited by EPA. I'm getting to that. You know, trying to give you a little history. When the smoke management rules were rewritten a couple of years ago, with a tremendous amount of input from our community, you know, a whole bunch of different entities in our community. One of the things that was put in place was that we would get a little bit more flexibility in putting smoke in the air by developing a community response plan. And in the past, County Public Health and the County Forester were two of the key keepers of the community response plan. You know, when there was staffing changes at some of the state regulatory agencies, and they were not as interested in giving us the flexibility that we had negotiated in the smoke management plan, and recognizing that it probably wasn't even enough. I started to ask for discussions with the regulatory agencies to allow to allow us to accomplish the burning we needed, if we would do a good job of communicating and mitigating said smoke event, so that the actual exposure of vulnerable populations was limited. And so there was a meeting of the Wildland Fire Leadership Council back in February. I think you actually came down for that, for part of that. They asked me to give a presentation for that, and then I had some pretty in-depth discussions with a woman named Erica Sassler, who's, I forget her title, but she's, like very high up in the EPA and a member of the Wildland Fire Leadership Council for the at the national level. And this tabletop was something that she essentially committed to me, with DEQ giving the thumbs up, to help make happen. And so that's where this roundtable came from.
So does the smoke management plan need to be edited or updated, or is it just basically asking for approval by EPA or on behalf of DEQ? Really, I mean,
the smoke management plan was adopted I want to say maybe 2019, but and it's a 5-year plan. It's, in my opinion, it hasn't been properly applied to our community. They're not fully recognizing what we've done with our community response plan, our local community response plan. And it probably is not flexible enough for us to do the work that needs to be done. So we were navigating all of that. The question was, there was all kinds of questions about, can we do some kind of special pilot? Is that in direct violation of the smoke management plan, or is there room within the smoke management plan to do this? What if we do it like this? There's a lot of navigating like regulatory minutia to get to the point where I believe we will have an opportunity in the spring that we haven't had in the past.
so that 5-year smoke management plan to be updated here next year or something. I mean, lots been learned.
Yeah.
I remember the moment we turned the corner saying, and this was the Forest Collaborative saying, let's celebrate the smoke in the spring and the fall. Understand this is a prescribed burn. We're going to let you know the day before. Yes, there's going to be smoke, but it's going to clear the next day. And, the culture of Central Oregon accepted that at some point. So.
Oh yeah. The social license for smoke is very high because of a tremendous amount of public communications and engagement work that's been done in the past. And that was the reason, really, the primary reason why EPA, DEQ, and ODF and OHA could come here and say, "Oh yeah, we really need to let you do this because if you don't do this prescribed burning, the city of Bend is going to burn to the ground, and if you do this prescribed burning, you know how to get in touch with everyone who needs to know so that they can limit their exposure." So it's just emphasizing common sense to them. But we had EPA people from North Carolina, where their air unit headquarters is, and from Region 10 in Seattle, and we had top of the food chain for DEQ air quality division here, and other people, a representative from OHA, couple of folks from the Oregon Department of Forestry, the governor's wildfire advisor, Doug Graff, came for the second day of the event. So, I think the people necessary to actually get us the flexibility that we need to do the work.
Is this, so I started off with asking who's we, is it the Forest Collaborative or not?
The people who are walking around with drip torches, making sure the fire doesn't escape, that's the Forest Service.
And they're the ones that want to have this approval.
They would like to have this approval. There are a whole lot of people in the community who would like this approval.
Yeah. Great, thank you. That's all I had. I just had those items. Next week, Association of Oregon Counties Conference in Eugene. Anything else?
I think I've already mentioned my week.
The one other thing I'd say about that is if you would like staff to come in and give you because like the whole regulatory framework is extremely bureaucratic and complicated. And I'm sure I didn't do a good job of explaining it.
Well, and if
you would like someone who actually can describe all in fine detail all the regulations and the ways that they measure and what it means if you cross certain thresholds, we could have Sarah and Kevin come and give a presentation on what happened at that.
Well, no, I mean, really, when I say we, is it Sarah? Is it our Kevin Moriarty? Is it their our county forester? Who's convening? Who's asking for thumbs up or thumbs down? Or is Deschutes County advocating for the Forest Service to be able to do this? Because I understand the values we're going here. I was just trying to understand the structure of who's who there. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I guess what I want to emphasize is if you're looking for a lead, it's pretty hard to identify a lead.
Is it you? Which is fine.
No.
I mean, I don't
know. I don't think it's me. Because obviously I don't know all the regulatory details. I was there to cheerlead basically.
Advocacy. That's fine.
But the county is involved. The Forest Collaborative is involved. The Forest Service is involved. Fire departments are involved. ODF is involved. All those agencies are involved, and they want to help. They want to help our community do the prescribed fire that we need, so that the city of Bend doesn't have catastrophic fire roll right up to our doorstep. And in other parts of the county, we just don't have those kinds of smoke management constraints. So we can do 800 acre burn next to Sun River, or we can do 200 acre burn near Sisters, and all these things that allow us to cumulatively catch up on the acres that need to get burned. But the smoke management issues are especially complex out in the West Bend project area.
Because of population of Bend.
Yeah, and because Bend was identified a long time ago as a sensitive smoke receptor area. And just the topography and the wind patterns. When the only days that are safe to do a prescribed fire burn or where you can actually get, when it's not so cold and wet that you can't even get fire to move, those are the days that will dump smoke into the city of Bend. And there's very few of them as is. So
any other items?
I would also just report that I spent a day and a half in Salem on Monday and Tuesday during Ledge Days. I was originally invited to serve on a panel for the Joint Ways and Means Committee, but then they postponed that to January. But in the meantime, I had made a whole bunch of appointments to visit with legislators, so still did that and had a lot of discussions about housing, that child emergency psychiatric facility that was proposed under House Bill 3126 this last session. I got to talk with Representative Sanchez directly about that, and how it'll come back probably in 2025 if there are enough people asking for it and pushing for it, which we should be part of, and a bunch of water and wildfire issues.
Great. Anything else for this meeting then? We do have executive session following this, so So seeing nothing else, we'll adjourn this regular meeting and we have an executive session following, and this will be on ORS 1926602E real property negotiations. Is there anything else or just that, you know?
There must be
Sounds like that may
property
be.
and at least there are two or three items with property,
Yeah, so,
two property. Okay,
okay,
thank you.
great. Well, and we'll take a break and get reset for an executive session.